Hi, welcome back to Commander Speedy's channel. Much to the request of many people asking me about the VoiceAttack, the great products that I'm absolutely loving and using to improve my immersion into the Elite Dangerous game, I thought I'd actually bring you a quick video to show you how I've configured it in game. Now, if you actually go to the Elite Dangerous forums, there's lots of people that have written crib sheets and they've written explanations on how to use this. So this is really a video for those that really don't like going to those type of textual documents and wish to see a very quick video on how to do so. I'm sure there's bound to be a few more out there as well. I'm not professing to be the expert. I'm just showing you how I've used it and how I love it. So you can see on the screen on the window. I've given you the link to the voiceattack.com, so you just go there, go and get the trial 21-day limited trial. The limited is only purely limited in the fact that you can only set up 20 odd commands, which for anybody is more than enough. And certainly in my early videos I've been using the trial version, so clearly there wasn't any issues. The one issue that you do have with it, we will go on to when we're talking about the actual application itself. Elite Dangerous at the moment runs under admin rights, so you have to make sure you launch VoiceAttack as admin rather than just a standard non-admin user rights. That's purely because then it can talk to Elite Dangerous. So it's just an authentication type. It's not authenticate. It's its rights to send it from one to the other application. So here you go. So the website gives you a 21-day trial. For those that fall in love with the products, like I did certainly, you can go and purchase the key, and for a low $8 plus a bit of sales tax, I think that's pretty good actually. You get the license through an email, and I can't recommend this product highly enough. I will talk about the product. There are some limitations, so some people need to be aware of them, but we'll come on to those as I go forward. Now, I will start with an apology here that I can't use Fraps to record this session because I need to record the windows rather than what I normally have is a full screen version of Elite running, and Fraps does a brilliant job at recording a full screen DirectX recording, but it doesn't do a very good job on Windows. So if I'd actually try to use Fraps now, it would just try and record the window I click on, which is just not appropriate. So what that means is I'm at the mercy of the recording speed. So although the game will be showing to me in full speed, for you it will be a little bit glitchy, but unfortunately there's not a lot I can do. So setting up VoiceAttack. Well, VoiceAttack is a very simple application that runs and uses the native Windows 7 and Windows 8 voice recognition software. So Windows gave out some voice recognition, and as I was talking earlier on, there are some limitations in there. Some languages aren't supported, so there has been some reports from people that they've tried to use non-UK or non-English languages and they've had different problems. So you do need to go and double check the Windows 7 or Windows 8 platform, whatever you're using there. You need to go and check its native support and language before you even go ahead and try and use VoiceAttack, just to avoid disappointment. I know that in the forums there's been several people in some of the European countries that just can't use it in their native tongue. So that's one point to bear in mind. But what VoiceAttack's doing is it takes your voice, it converts your voice into whatever word you've stated, it does a lookup on that word, and quite simply issues a key press to the game you're playing. So there is nothing clever here, it's all very simple to do. So all you need to do is go into Elite Dangerous and set up all your key presses. So in the controls, you can see here that I've got my joystick up and down, my plus and minus for pitch up and down, and then you've got roll and all sorts of other things. And where some of the fun that I've set up is where I shout out full forward, or full back, or max reverse, or half reverse, or half forward, or stop. So you can see I've set these specific buttons. So set speed to 0 is a full stop of all things, and that happens to translate to me shouting stop. That stop word is then converted to a key press of a full stop, and that brings my ship slowly to a halt. So you've got max reverse is I You've got half reverse is K, you've got half forward is J, and max forward is U. So you can see that Elite have provided different key bindings. Now there has been some discussions on the fact that they don't give us some key bindings, which is really annoying, and we're trying to put the pressure on to change that, because for example when you do a hyper jump there is no key binding for that. Now I clearly want to say number 1 hyper jump, make it so, or something very similar, which would be just great fun. Or some of the other ones where we're coming into docking and I want to say, hi Holly, give me a docking space, and then I have a docking button binding, but that's not available. Another one that's not available is actually to drop your gears, so your landing gear. It'd be great to say gears down and gears up. So those bindings aren't there in the game at the moment, which is quite annoying. So if we could have those key bindings, then we could then lock on with the voice attack. But that's the way life is at the moment. And that's the whole beauty of alpha and beta testing. Gradually these things get known by the developers, and they then come back and say, yeah, we agree, actually that would actually add to the immersion. So here we go. I'm just going to scroll through my bindings now. As I've stated, there are plenty of forum threads in the Elite Dangerous site that you can go in, and there's lots of textual documents to explain some really nice key bindings and the optimum way of doing things. Well, I don't believe in all of that. I like to set my bindings up how I feel comfortable. So it's a combination of how I originally started trying to use the keyboard, moved away from the keyboard with using my very old quick shot joystick, which is using an old serial cable into a serial to USB converter. And I'm using that for just purely for the directional positioning, and it's a godsend. The keyboard is very difficult to use, just purely because of reactions. Obviously an analog joystick will send far better turning circle instructions, so you get a better weighting on a quick turn versus a slow turn, whereas with the keyboard, well, I was finding it was very sluggish. So I've just gone through all the key bindings, so there's nothing special in there, but I am going to come out and cancel that because I don't want to lose my settings, and I'm going to go on to the voice attack. Now I've mentioned already the voice attack fires off the request to the application. You can go in here and you can set the window it's going to send to, so I leave it on active window just generally because I run this as full screen. And I want to record fraps as well, so I want to record a full screen DirectX version. So you could set it directly to the launcher, but I just find it's just more useful and friendly and ready to go with an active window. Now you'll notice that it says listening suspended in the middle, and it's trying to listen, and you can clear the statuses, and that's because I'll show you the setting in a minute, but you can toggle a button to turn on and off the listening, which is extremely good when you're recording things like I have been. So if I now press my button, which is the left alt, listening's resumed, and as you can see, as I'm talking, it's trying to convert my talk into some words. But if I shout out sub, enemy, left, right, full forward, max reverse, I'm just going to suspend it there. As you can see, out of all those, it got my lights wrong, so it has had a problem with right and lights. Now that's only purely down to Windows 7's training that I need to go through to make sure it can understand my R versus my L, and that's just the way I speak. I hate my voice, like anybody who has ever recorded themselves. But basically you would have seen all these recording. Now you noticed also there was lots of beeps going on. Clearly that was because I'm actually on the voice attack application, so it's actually trying to send those key presses to itself, which is obviously invalid. So you can go in here and you can clear out and see what you've been doing with the commands. So coming into the actual application, the generic settings for the application. So you can toggle the speech engine. Now I've left it to system default, but you can also toggle it to English UK. So originally I found it was better to go to the UK, and I was finding the recognition was better. But recently I've just flipped it back to system default. Since 3.1 I've just found that system default responds better. No idea why, just does. So that's why I've left it there. Again, it's worth playing for. I haven't gone back to Windows 7 training, so there is an application you can kick off in Windows 7 to train the voice to improve that quality. The next one is the toggling button that I mentioned. Oh, sorry, I'm whacking my joystick here. There's my left alt button toggled for turning on and off. So I do that for when I'm recording games. And you've got the mouse clicking, so there's lots of different options you've got in here. There's enable notifications, so in some of the recordings you will hear me turning on and off the voice recognition, and I just realised I'd left the enable sound on. It was giving like a bloop noise as I was doing, so a little low deep noise. You can minimise when it's running and whether it starts up automatically, which is all nice. Then there's a disable adaptive recognition. Now that for me has worked beautifully. Before I turned that on, I was finding that recognition was quite bad. That was quite clearly because I'm trying to record the sound effects as well as actually talking, and also we're now with the computer talking back at us as well. There's just that extra element for it to work through. So turning that on, it has been nice. Of course, the adaptive recognition probably does sound like it's going to improve itself. And then there are some defaults for what happens when you recognise speech when you stop. So basically the VoiceAttack works off gaps in your talking. So when you issue commands, if you say sub, and the reason why I said sub rather than subsystem, is just it gives it more chance to pick up SUB, and then make sure you got a little bit of pause after, and this basically gives you a little bit of timer, and I'm assuming this is in microseconds of how long it's going to wait before it then gives up, or it recognises the speech and issues the command. So you can tamper with those. Now, I can't give you any ideal figures. It's all going to be dependent on how fast your hardware is, how good your voice is, how into your game is, etc. They're the tweaks that I needed to make for my machine, which is just a quad core Q6600 2.4 overclocked with some water cooling up to 3 GHz. I could clock it more, but I've not actually needed it for Elite Dangerous yet. And I've got a simple GTX 285 graphics card, so it's quite old. Again, I'm due to upgrade all of this, but at the moment that does for me. So where do we set all the settings? Well, there's within the VoiceAttack, it's lovely because it gives you the facility for profiles, so you can set up different profiles for different games. So I've set up an Elite Dangerous one because that's all I'm using it for. I do intend to use it for other games and try it, but at the moment Elite Dangerous has got all my attention. So you can come in now and actually edit the profile you're in. And this is the magic, quite simple. On the left hand side is the word that you speak, ignore the multi-part for a minute, and on the right hand side is the actions. So you can actually specify whether it's a single key press, a repeated key press, or even whether it's a set of key presses all tagged together, and you can record a set of macros together, or even you can define macros and set all that up. I haven't gone to be that ambitious, to be honest. I just want simple key presses. I do intend to play with this a bit more, but at the moment in the alpha it's so much fun I've actually neglected the commands that I want to use. Now I'm going to quickly scroll down as I did with the Elite Dangerous window, so you can see what I've set, and then it's up to you to pause and use any of the settings that you want to use here. But I will go into a couple of the commands in more detail. So that is the list. There's 21 commands, so yes, now I've registered I have got more than the trial allocation. So let's go into sub, because that's one that a lot of people laugh at me and made jokes about, with me shouting out sub, sub, sub. In the game, when you're playing the game, the subsystem of the enemy, if you can target with gimbal weapons, certainly, it's brilliant because you can take out like the power plant. And if you take out the power plant, you take their shields down and you disrupt some of the lasers and some of their abilities of the ships. So by pinpointing certain weapons, or for the other side you could pinpoint the cargo hatch to just not destroy your enemy, but just so you can dislodge their cargo out of their ship, so you can go and collect the bounty from it. So that's great for pirates. So sub is quite a key word, and it's only come into real effect in 2.1, 2.2, where it really does work very well now. So here you can see when I say sub, VoiceAttack converts it using Windows 7 from the voice into the word sub, and then it's going to set the key and hold the open square bracket for 100th of a second. So you could change that, so I could press key press, and you can, in here you can assign different key press, or you can state whether it's a release of a key or a press of a key, or press and hold. You can state whether you're using any of the control keys around it as well, so you can have combinations. You can state whether it's an input, just a standard one, or whether it's going to Windows Gain DirectX. I've set that as default just purely because I've assumed that would be better. I haven't really played around, although I do know that if I open up TextPad for instance and then I start speaking, it does issue the key presses to it. So that was one way of toggling to check the commands were coming out right. So you can play with those options. I'm not going into them into detail. There's a recorder here for some macros, etc. But from my point of view, I haven't gone into that level. Some people have used words like evasive actions or something like that, or dodge. And what they're doing is they're issuing commands in a random order to go up, down, left, right. So when somebody's got a lock on them, they can easily shout out evade. Sorry, there you go. I've got the word now, evade. It would try and evade very quickly, so there was a predefined macro of movement just to try and shift and avoid being blown out the water, out of space, out of water. As you can tell, I can't talk and do things at the same time. So that's purely all there is to it. So I'll demonstrate this running. So I think I've talked about the fact that you need to set VoiceAttack up to run as under administrator rights. Effectively, all you do is you go to the start menu where your VoiceAttack is, you right click on it, go into properties, you go into the permissions, and under permissions, under advanced, there's an option there called run as administrator, and that tick box is the box you want to do. Save it, come out, then restart VoiceAttack, and it should then run as administrative rights. And you should know that's the case because it will ask you whether you do want to run as administrator, but you do need to make that happen, otherwise it won't work. So I will leave VoiceAttack here, but I will press the button so it will start interpreting my voice again. I will leave the window so you can see some of it scrolling. So I'll leave it there and I'll go back to the game. Max forward. So I'm closing the settings, so you see it's recognised max forward, and then it's issued the button to go maximum forward. Stop. So you'll see there in the window there then, when I spoke, I was talking and it was interpreting, and next sees the button to go Maxwell forward. It's tried to interpret my words, but I also said stop, and it recognised that at the end of that sentence the word stop. So even though I've said lots of words, it's been clever enough to work out which word I needed for an instruction, which is pretty good. But the downside is there is that delay because I was talking in mid-sentence when it was recording. Now, one other thing that I forgot to show you in the actual application, trying to get my cursor back, is suspending that, is coming back to multi-part. Yes, I did forget that. So let's open up Max Forward. What you can do in here is, you see, I get very excited and very animated, as you probably tell when I play the game at times. If I shout out Max Forward, I sometimes shout out Full Forward. I know I want to go forward, and I'm tempted to change it to say Forward Max or Forward Full. But for me at the moment, it's just how I set it up originally. But what I've done here now is this tool allows you to separate commands. So you can have actually max forward and full forward separated by a semicolon. So both of those will pick up the same command for you, which is extremely useful. And I only found out after a while how to do this, which is really silly. I should have found out straight away by reading the instructions, of course. I've used all this by just trial and error rather than reading the manuals. I'm quite strange like that. So again, very useful. They will eat up the number of commands. So you will see I've got max forward here, and up above there will be, is it up above? Full forward. So they are both there. So they both count as commands, but when you edit them, they count as one, which is lovely, and I think that's a lovely way the GUI is working as well. So you can easily find out where they all are. I hate these applications that automatically split them and then you don't know which one's joint. So that's the multi way of providing commands as well. So I could have Holly please land as well as let me in, or a few other commands as well. So that's really how it all works. It's pretty simple. but I'm going to end the lesson here because I've got to get on and do a few other things. So thanks for watching. It's Commander Speedy signing out.